From the southernmost point of Dorne to the lands of always winter, what is west of Westeros and the shadows in the east, but no shadows from Mordor today, because we are going to be talking about Westeros, maybe Lessos, maybe all of the land. We are having a lot of fun here today, getting ready, getting hyped, because season 1, episode 1 of House of the Dragon is going to be here shortly. By shortly, I mean this coming Sunday. I'm Napzok. That is Alden Diaz. Hello, Alden. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show, and welcome to the TV storm. We had She-Hulk starting today, House of the Dragon's coming up, and we are not stopping from this point on, everybody. Get ready. It's a new era.
We are not stopping. Indeed, people are in here, and I'll address this right now. There sometimes seems to be an issue with my mic. It actually is nothing here on this ad, and did some research. It actually looks like on StreamYard. So pretty soon we'll just be moving everything over to OBS, like I do all my other shows here. But then you can't bring in comments like this, Alden. You can't go, "Hey, Ton Weir Beckett says, did you guys see the new promo?" I did. 45-second TV spot, Alden. Did you see that?
I actually didn't. I saw the 45-second Rings of Power one that came out, because now we're just being so inundated that it's hard to keep up with 100% of both. But I will check this out.
Yeah, as Bill Bro Bagginson says, I wish you good fortune in the content wars to come. A lot of people checking in here. Christy McGee is here. Unknown Witch, Crafted Jedi, Trey T, and of course Ranger Donald. 7 blessings to you, Mr. Donald here. Will McLean starts us off with a powerful question. Will the HBO Max app crash? Wonder what the odds are. It definitely, that's always a thing. It used to be a thing back in the day. Remember when like HBO Go or HBO Now started showing up, Alden? Like I didn't make that like direct TV switch to the app. Game of Thrones one night. I was with my friend Matt Key and his eventual wife Brittany Wallach. I was at their house and we were trying to watch, and I even think Mercer and Marisha were there too, and like it wouldn't click on. Like the app.
A room full of people saying, "But what now?"
What do you do?
Yeah, I remember that happening. I don't think I ever experienced it with HBO, but I definitely experienced it the first day of Disney Plus, because you had every Star Wars fan in the world wondering what they were about to see. That was an interesting one.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work on one device, but it worked on mobile. I ended up watching the Mandalorian pilot, which I was blessed to have already seen it at a screening, but I saw the day of release on my iPhone at work, which is just a disrespect. But yeah, it was an interesting one. But as for HBO, I don't know, because out of all the heinous amount of cuts that they've made, how much of that is data workers and people reinforcing like servers?
Look, Ranger Donald brings it up here. Well, HBO Discovery did lay off 76 HBO Max employees, so maybe.
Exactly.
Hey,
yeah.
Look, sucks. People lose their jobs. It's a reality of life, but this was not the time to do it, HBO Max. Not the time to do it now. We'll see.
We needed all the banners, HBO.
All the banners. Call all the banners. We're going to have a lot of fun today, Alden and I, and some special calling guests, and maybe even you listening can call in via StreamYard, which is working for now, to come in and maybe talk some predictions, talk about the hype, and we're just going to roll in that wonderful feeling, Alden. We're going to dive into it there. Before we get into that, we want to let you know here as we get ready. Yes, we'll be covering this show. We're going to have some other names come on the show as well when we talk about it. It's less of a review, more of a discussion and analysis of the themes and what is actually in the show. Our plans for episode 1, we're going to watch it twice, and then record an episode, not live, but release it late Sunday night into Monday morning. That might change week to week based on Alden's schedule, my schedule, my 4-setter schedule, life. If I get a gig that night at Flappers, you never know. You never know if stand-up comedy will ruin Game of Thrones for me here this time. So just want to let you all know, bear with us. Follow us, Casterly Talk on Twitter. Follow me at Napzok or that Alden Diaz, and you can get the updates of when the episode is, or just subscribe on the podcast feed. It will pop up, or hit that bell, subscribe, do all the notification stuff here on YouTube if that's your preferred choice, which just means you get to see what beanie I have on that night. Alden, that about covers it, right, in terms of programming.
I think that's important. Yeah, the beanie point especially is like, what version of Ken are we going to get? Right now we have Fire and Blood Ken, with a little bit of the Stark, though, the Stark legacy on your shirt there. And yeah, I mean, that we're talking about predictions, like there's a wild card. Like, will the Stark that we see in the trailer play any role whatsoever in the show? And was there going to be any love for anyone that is not like, if your house is not House Targaryen, if that's like in the same way we all picked Harry Potter houses, if this is not your people, are you going to get your moment in this show? Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. That's one of the first things we want to get to here is how we're going to take in the show. We're talking about how we're going to review it and what we're going to get into what we think might be in this first episode or this first season. We're going to have fun with that. These are not super serious predictions. Well, actually, take it back. Some of them are very serious. But Alden, I would ask you your viewing plans. I will take us to Star Wars Celebration this past year in Anaheim. The Obi-Wan Kenobi series, Obi-Wan Kenobi, debuted during that time, and there was a lot of discussion of, do you have tickets to the special screening? I ended up getting some and did not go. Are you going to watch it in your hotel room with friends, or are you going to watch it by yourself? I always choose by myself, and that includes Game of Thrones. Grace, my fiance, notwithstanding. How do you take in your Game of Thrones content now? House of the Dragon.
As cinematically as I can harness in a house. I'm a lights off person. You can tell if I really believe that it's an important viewing experience for me, not to knock other things, but if it's a 30-minute comedy, I can leave the lights on for that. But if it's one of my things, lights are off, super silent, dog has already been fed, he's chilling, and it needs to be like super serious. Like right now in this very home, there are other people as I'm on the air catching up on Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, and all that, and I can't do it with them because they don't follow the formula. So so going back to Anaheim when we were both there, I did go to the screening. You didn't. We met up. You texted me after and we're like, they're up on Disney now. I was like, oh wow. And that was a lot of me having to be stern with some friends that I really love. Lots of guys in the Star Wars Twitter space like, come to the room, and I was like, I love you, but I'm not doing that.
That takes me back to the episode 1 of season 8 of Game of Thrones, which was during the Sunday night at Star Wars Celebration Chicago. And man, like you just said, I had to be really mean to people I loved. Where some people knew I was watching it in the hotel room. Scrimshaw and I were sharing a room, so Joseph was going to watch it with me. And I tell you, I won't give the names. There were some people text me, and I said, "You didn't make the cut. You didn't make the cut. You're not watching. You're not."
What they don't realize is that we've been keeping mental notes of who fits the silent criteria, and there is a silent criteria. Like again, if I was in your neck of the woods, I would totally pop over, or you would pop over, because we both know that it's 50 to 60 minutes of silence,
settling first.
Audible reactions encouraged, but not like we're being filmed. Just in a way that's like, oh, like that's fine, that's fun. But yeah, so for me, super silent, very focused. Watching it on Max, not on the channel HBO, which is interesting. I'm assuming that it'll be a simultaneous airing and drop type situation.
I think so. Will McLean is with us. As Game of Thrones time is my time. I prefer to be left alone. Look, it is, and I'm with you. Like in watching Kenobi, episodes 1 and 2, Joseph and I both reacted. We're human, but it was that under the breath kind of like, and man, even food. Like I gotta tell, like that night in Chicago, I'll just call her out. Love her to death, Darina from the World Girls. She made the cut along with Mark Ellis, and right before she pulled out some peanuts and started crunching. I was, this is going to be problems. This is going to be a problem. But
before she knew it, she was crunching with Ken's face this close to her face. Like,
stop eating the peanuts.
That's a big thing. I mean, we've all been sitting down. If you're sitting, like, I think it was it Rise of Skywalker? It might have been Solo. I think it was Solo. And somebody had clearly snuck in a meal into the theater from elsewhere. And you could hear like their plastic container opening their little plastic cutlery. And my, at the time, partner was like, I can't do this. I was like, I'm going to kill them. I was like, I'm going to turn around during this screening.
So we will be watching it alone or close to alone. I'll have 2 Chihuahuas and Grace watching as well. Ranger Donald says, this is the reason why I'm in credit card debt at Best Buy for the show. Built a small home theater setup just for this show.
Go to Ranger Donald's.
Oh, Bill Bro Baggins says, my brother-in-law loves to chew on ice while watching shows with his wife and I, and it drives me insane. Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. Eric Monroe is here. a call from Eric shortly here. Let's get to some actual questions here. Then we're going to talk about just our approach to watching this, which is our approach. I want to make it clear. It's how you and others kind of take it in. It's not for everybody there, but something that we're going to talk about here. But we got a question right up top here from Trade T. Haven't read the book, says Trade T. Is it expected for supernatural elements to show up beyond dragons, whites, White Walkers, children of the forest, three-eyed raven? Thanks. That's a solid question. We love talking to folks who are here to enjoy it and take the show as it is. And maybe, like Trey said, haven't read the books, haven't studied all the maps. So going off just my top of my brain memory, Alden, my quick answer to that is no. There's always caveats, and we'll see what the show does. But this one, other than dragons, other than that kind of maybe a low-level magic, not expecting any of that kind of big stuff. That's kind of
if you feel like when you say low-level magic, not to speak for you, but I think that you're talking about like your Red Priestess level, that type of like I can touch higher powers, but you should not expect something that is actually a giant, actually a white, because correct me if I'm wrong, but because I'm not a full book person. I got like a foot in and a foot out, but in the world of Ice and Fire, I think it's made pretty explicitly clear that not until the events of Game of Thrones, The War of the Five Kings, does anything start to rear its head again. Like the Long Night, it was over. Then we had dragons, but once dragons were gone, magic was gone. Big time magic anyway. Yeah, big.
And the key is and to Trey's question, we have dragons during this time. So does that mean there's some sort of, again, a presence of magic? Possibly. We'll see how the show could play with it. But yeah, the big thing, the White Walkers, they're gone. They're sleeping, as we heard in the original series. And the idea that they're back meant it was all kind of coming back, and magic slowly kind of turning back into the land. And I love this question from Trey Alden because it really kind of makes you think about what we're about to get. We always say, you and I talk, there's a lot of people that we know, some used to work with the old Screen Junkie show, who are actually, the magic in Game of Thrones was, all right, I'm here for the politics. And I wonder if there's going to be sort of a reversal, or someone's like, politics is, the interpersonal relationships are good. I need some more magic. I never really thought about that till now.
Yeah, it's you're right. Until this question, I never thought about the fact that there is probably that sect of fandom in the same way when you go to Star Wars or something, where it's like you have the area that you prefer and you never really get it reversed. And it makes me think of Game of Thrones season 7, the meeting inside of, of the different parties inside of the big dragon pit and everything, and how John stops to do that infomercial where he's effectively telling the audience, we are embracing fantasy now. He like holds up the White's hand, like we can kill them by burning them. Then he's like, does his whole little QVC.
We can kill them.
Yeah. So that's what it was like, him telling all the other characters, like, we're in a fantasy show. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah. And I love this comment here from Douglas Dubois in the chat here. Seems like they might lean into the prophecy and dragon dreams. We've already kind of seen that in the trailer a little bit there. And that's kind of what I mean. That's maybe not the smartest way to describe it, but that low-level magic. Melisandre in a bath. Not necessarily Melisandre. Technically, I guess you could say she could show up, but not expecting that, of course. But yeah, so great question, Trey T, to start us off there. Any final thoughts on that one there, Alden?
No, but you did just put into my mind the idea of a Carice Van Houten cameo, because she is so long-lived that it would be feasibly possible. That's almost like a Star Wars-y type conversation, that like, would they ever do something that quote-unquote cute? I don't know, but it would be really cool.
Would it be cute? Some stuff here going on. If you're on a podcast feed, we thank you so much for listening. If you're on Apple, rate, review, Spotify, rate, review, those kind of things really helps the show. But over on the YouTube, we had some exclusive videos up this week. I'll cycle through some of those thumbs. We had, we called them explainers, but maybe little prep videos, about 4 minutes each, from some of the main characters. King Viserys I. We had Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen. We had the Rogue Prince Daemon Targaryen, and there's other people, other families, other houses. Corlys Velaryon, and then we have one more. If Ken does his homework tonight, we'll have one more for the show for Alicent Hightower, the Queen in Chains. So we've had a lot of fun doing those. Alden and I put some just basic information to get you caught up on some of the events, and it's weird. Some of it might bleed into the start of the show, that we know kind of when the show begins year-wise, but some information goes beyond that. It just kind of sets you up going into the show. But really, though, Alden, we really wanted to look at the themes that they'll represent, and we think each one of these characters, as well as the rest of the larger cast, has a lot to tell us about what the themes of the show might be this season, and that's one of the ways we just love diving in.
Yeah, I think that we're both ideas first type people, which it's a delicate balancing act. Coming from having read comics my entire life of superheroes, Marvel, DC, loving Star Wars, it's sometimes you have to be willing to set aside even your own personal rabbit holes to really ask yourself, like, what are they doing? I'm reading right now the Obi-Wan Kenobi YA book Padawan, and it contradicts a source book that had put Obi-Wan's Satine romance at age 15. Now that has been, changed and everything. And I went down a rabbit hole last night where me and my buddy Nikki Kumar, we were like, oh, but Obi-Wan Kenobi, well, if the Mandalorian Civil Wars were 20 years before this, and trying to figure it out. And then I thought to myself, it doesn't matter. It was tumultuous romance and everything. So details to me are gravy almost. And what is actually going on with the people is why I loved Game of Thrones. So I think that that's sort of where we lean into it. If you listen to any of these explainers, we always end on that idea section of, okay, well, what's going on here with Rhaenyra and womanhood? What's going on here with Daemon and lust? What's going on with Viserys and duty and like decision making and all that stuff?
Yeah, and Corlys Lauren with ambition and protection of family before other things. But what does that get him? Where does that lead him? Yeah, none of it is. It's just thoughts, and thoughts what they might represent. We only say this because so I think the people watching live and those listening thus far are listeners of Casterly Talk of at least the last few weeks, perhaps months. Maybe you've been listening since the Daily Thrones days. Maybe you listened to me at Force Center or Alden and Octo Radio. I think you know how we take it in. I just want to make sure everyone knows how we're going to be talking about it. The facts and figures are fun. I love that stuff. I've read Fire and Blood Volume 1, and I love this section of the story. I love, that's actually I've said before, one of my favorite George R. Martin reading experiences. But one of the reasons we really wanted to talk about it here is we're going to have, in our predictions, we're going to have a little bit more of this. I don't want to step on that too much, Alden, but we know, at least we think, the character of Mushroom not going to be around. Probably good reasons, but also there's a way they could have done it. But we'll see. Doesn't look like it. And then the other character we were texting about this week, Massaria, right?
Yeah.
They've already said not like the books, or at least vastly different in a lot of ways in what they did or tried to do with the character. And it just got me thinking, oh no, here we go again. Even though Fire and Blood, in this section of Fire and Blood, is small compared to 5 volumes of George's other ongoing story, this could lead us into this kind of thing in the comments or just the way people take it in of, it's not like that in that thing I read. And that's okay. That's part of the point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we have to, as broadcasters, pundits, content creators, whatever category you want to put us in or that we put ourselves in, I feel a responsibility to advocate for the changes, even if I dislike them, to advocate for their right to happen and exist. I might not agree with them. She-Hulk came out today, not to date the episode too much, but this is a hype party for a show. So we are, this episode is sort of, we know we're at a moment in time, but they changed She-Hulk's origin pretty drastically. There's big changes. But I liked what they were within the context of what was happening. And I thought it was great and even kind of better. And I think that growing up, I was trained for that because of watching MCU adaptations of things that I had read, for watching we obligatory pro wrestling mention on Casterly Talk. Like, how many times in pro wrestling does a storyline just disappear, or does a storyline change because of XYZ reasons, or does, oh, I thought that you were, nope, it was actually this. Like, that happens all the time. And I think that the internet age has made people get married to a certain iteration of something. And I think that we're now, between this and Rings of Power and all the comic book shows, we were firmly breaking that. And if you're not going to get on board with that, with their license to do things that are different, then you're setting yourself up to be disappointed. Yeah,
it's frustration. And I think this is this is going to be a fun episode. I don't mean to get too serious with this. We're on the eve, basically, almost a couple days out of this show. And I just want people to take it for what it is, take it for what it is trying to tell us all. And already on Rings of Power side, there's the Tolkien lore heads. They're an interesting bunch at times. Not everyone. I'm not making a general statement. But even we've seen it here with like the Princess Rhaenyra explainer video or prep video. oh, that's not how I would describe her. That's not what in the book she did. In her history, she does this and that. And it's like, but yes, you're right. We're summarizing some facts and figures, but don't get caught up on that. Engage with this story. Engage with what they're trying to do with that character and gender politics role, the roles of women, men, and the gender roles. It's definitely going to be part of that character's themes. It's going to be there. They've already talked about that, and that's not necessarily in those facts and figures. So that's my last kind of pump the brakes and let's just enjoy the dragon show that's about to hit us.
Totally. I mean, that's the power of stories. When stories are that big, I mean, you go all the way back to Shakespeare. There is not a single production of any of his small guy, Bill Shakespeare. You can Google him later.
Oh yeah, Fines. Got it.
Yeah, 100%. That catalog of work keeps changing hundreds of years later because of when it's produced, who's producing it, what's going on, how they stage it, what they want to do. I've seen 4 Macbeths over the past couple of years that have all been different from each other, and I love them all. And I think that this is Rhaenyra being adapted in 2022. Yeah. If 50 years from now, the Martin estate decides to let someone else do X and they choose to do Dance of the Dragons again, or Dance of Dragons, then it's not going to be the same. It's going to reflect. I mean, we're looking at the works of George Lucas from the 70s and 80s, constantly re-putting it through what we're going through now in America and everything. So that's just how it works.
Yeah. A3 in the comments says, plus, isn't it written as an unreliable narrator vibe with an unreliable narrator vibe? Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely, I'd call Fire and Blood Volume 1, but a history book. But they literally, that's the point. This character of Mushroom is literally whispering in one side of the book going, well, I heard it was this. Doesn't necessarily mean it's all fact. All that to say, we don't want to go too far down that path. I start to become, sound like I'm finger wagging. It's not. I'm so excited for the show, and I'm so refreshed by this world of Westeros that we're about to get to explore again, that I don't know. I want you all to come along for that ride there. You know, can we all have a little fun, Alden?
Just relax, guys. Just relax. There's nothing serious about this. It's just shows. No, but yeah, it's a vibe. I mean, it's exciting. It's surreal to think that we're about to like sit down Sunday night for Westeros, even if it is a different time and a different show. It's like we're back, and it's been the shortest wait. The wait between Star Wars was a decade. The wait for Indy was much longer between The Last Crusade and Crystal Skull. And now it's a Crystal Skull and 5. Like all the Ghostbusters. I mean, oh god, the Ghostbusters fans, they'll tell you about waiting.
The longest wait I've had to experience is the Yankees World Series titles. Okay, 78 to 96 was a long time, Alden, for a young man. Okay, I've waited.
That's a lot.
So there you go. An excellent point too. And look, we're joking. This is pop culture stuff, and it's fun. It's meant to be taken as fun, but it is everything to me. It is how you view the world, how you view pop culture is how you take in the world, and that's very important to us as well. And I think this show is going to be dealing with some very modern, applicable themes and lessons that are there, and I just love that. I don't want to call anyone. I saw someone say, talk about Rhaenyra and her quest for power, quest for being the queen in a world that doesn't really let women do that. At this point, they haven't at all. And they said, well, the show shows that women can't get into positions of power, citing Queen Cersei. And I would say that was not what the show was saying. Her journey to get there cost her everything. Her treatment on the way there affected her greatly, and she tried to fill this horrible void with this kingdom, and it literally comes crashing down on her. And that's not even getting into the Dany of it all, the Sansa, the Arya of it all. Right. I don't think the show is saying that, and that's why we are focusing on the themes and what this show is about to tell us.
Yeah, without doing 2 hours just on that, because we easily could. Sometimes the events that happen in a thing are not what the thesis of the thing is, and that's not what they're advocating for. Like a great example of that I go to a lot recently after Obi-Wan Kenobi is that in the original Star Wars trilogy, when Obi-Wan advocates for the idea of Vader and Anakin as two separate entities, which I think modern Star Wars storytelling has been pushing back against and very much embraces that they're the same guy mentality. That's not saying like, oh, they changed what the franchise is saying. Obi-Wan Kenobi is a character expressing what makes him sleep at night, how he copes. And so for Cersei's journey, that's not the franchise saying, yes, we let women into positions of power in Westeros, because they don't. She took that by force, and like you said, lost everything. It took an act of literal terror, like an actual terrorist attack on the city, everything, for her to finally ascend to that point, and everything, of course, along the way. So she's an exception, not a rule. And even 200 years after the show we're about to witness, we saw the reactions to her, to Daenerys, how Marjorie could never actually be 100% truthful about anything in her pursuit. And we can go on and on about that. But yeah, things that happen sometimes are supposed to clash with what is actually the makeup of the setting.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and character dialogue is not facts. Douglas says this: just because the era has important themes to explore, I don't think they'll wash over dubious choices more here, the more we're confident in that. Yeah, and I agree with that too. I think that's what this universe and George R. Martin does so well. Those gray areas we always hear about are often about the choices and the lessons that come out from that there. Great stuff. We got some people checking in here. Will McLean confirms for us, Alden, I watch Westworld and it drops same time on HBO Max as HBO. So there you go. Both shows. We got, hey, you mentioned old Mr. Kumar there, and there he is in chat. It's going to feel great to be back in Westeros. We'll talk to Nikki on this show as well. And there was a great question. I want to scroll back up. Another one from Will here. Asks a really honest and open question. At the beginning of GOT, I had trouble keeping up with all the names and locations. Will this series have more, less, or about the same amount? Again, we're looking on the outside, looking in on this show at this point. But my easy answer is less, but still a lot. And a lot of them are going to sound the same.
I think that if you go back to Game of Thrones and you think about your experience with the storylines and arcs in King's Landing, it'll be a comparable amount to that. You will still have your council players, you will still have your royal players, you will still have your other people in the city. So think about that storyline, and as I think comparable in scope. What we will not have is, wait, I'm across, I'm on a different continent. Oh, who's that? Oh, his name's Illyrio. Oh, he's gone. Oh, what's going on over here? Oh, the Dothraki. Oh, they're gone. Like, you're not going to have any of that. Where suddenly you're thrust into other cultures. You go from King's Landing to north to Essos. Like, that's not going to happen, I think, as much, if at all.
Yeah, at least at the beginning, the stepstones and all those kind of areas will fall into place. But I think it's going to be slightly easier. I think the big problem is Targaryens have about 5 names, and they or a variation on said name.
Ranger Donald just said will be about the same 5. Yeah, it's gonna be a similar problem that I had with Varys and Viserys, which frustrated me eternally.
Oops. I hit the wrong card, but you know what, Alden? It's time to send the Ravens. We got a call. Let's listen to it.
Hey, Ken and Casterly Talk. So this is my calm before the storm, so to speak, call-in about the season premiere of House of the Dragon, which is only 4 days away. Now, I got to tell you, I can't believe it's been 3 years since Game of Thrones ended. In some ways, it feels 3 years. In some ways, it doesn't feel like it's been that long. But I am so excited on the journey all of us are about to undergo with House of the Dragon, however long it goes. I'm hearing rumblings it might be 3 seasons, but who knows, whether it's 3, 5, or even 1. Hopefully, definitely more than 1. But I'm excited to hear what everybody thinks, you and Alden and everybody else that's going to call in about the premiere and all the episodes. And I just want to say, I wish you good fortune in the wars to come.
There you go. One of my favorite Game of Thrones sayings. I wish you good fortune in the wars to come. I've used that in business meetings. That's how valuable it is.
Oh, yeah, I love that one. Yeah. I think for me, it's the specifically Arthur Dane in the flashback, because he is so confident that he's about to mop the floor with Ned and Howland and all those guys. And spoiler alert for that show, he didn't.
He didn't there. Nikki's right here. I feel that HBO is going to do a lot more online helping explain who is who. They've already put out that video of George explaining the overview of who the big houses at play are and stuff like that. Yeah, it's funny. We're putting together our fun little prep videos, as are all the other Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon YouTube channels, as they should. And they put some official ones out. I think, Alden, before we get to our prediction, I got to say, I think HBO so far has done a really great job of not just marketing the show, but setting the show apart from what came before, while also saying it's proudly in that world, which is something we've been talking about for a bit. But just seeing some of the explainer videos, George R. R. Martin is sometimes throws some shade, but I think he does it in a way that is honest yet also respectful, and understands, he probably can buy a lot more dinners at a Santa Fe restaurant now because of the show. So he understands the hand that feeds him, but is also honest, as he always is. I think overall they've done a good job both in marketing what the show will be in terms of different and what is in the show, setting you up for the players, setting you up for the little bit of the histories. I'm really happy with how they've done it.
I completely agree. I think that when it comes to George, he does ride that line really well. All he can ever be is honest. And I don't think we would like or respect him or any creator as much if they were being noticeably fake and PR trained and all that stuff. And I think that that's part of why we enjoy listening to him, is because he will say, yeah, I wasn't involved for that as much. And we're all like, ooh, but he's just a guy. And then in terms of HBO, I agree. I mean, I think that Nikki's comment is right. Like, they're going to do a lot more. I think they have done a lot more because they're launching House of the Dragon over a decade after they launched Game of Thrones. It's Game of Thrones is 2011, right? I can never remember if it's 10 or 11. So 11 years, years, the internet is so different. And now I feel they've approached it with a little bit of that difference. Hey, let's post something to our Twitter that has him explaining the big players. Hey, let's go to HBO.com. You can get a little blurb about every one of the principal cast members. And so I think that they're sort of leaning into that in a positive way, for sure. Yeah.
They are. Douglas says, would it be great if they did those character narrated stories and lore extra similar to what they did in GOT? Yeah, I got to wonder if those are coming. It's funny because I was like, oh, those are great. I remember getting the DVD and watching them. So maybe there'll be extras on HBO Max streaming. I don't know. Different time. Different era. Alden, we are going to get to some predictions here. You and I came up with 10 questions, and we'll say not all of them are completely serious. This is a fun thing. I don't love predictions because I'm not good at predictions. At the last big company I worked at, they said, hey, could you do a Game of Thrones Season 8 prediction video? My only prediction was, well, I think Dany's going to, quote, turn bad and die. And no one wanted to accept that. And I said, that's all I got. And so I didn't do any prediction videos at the last job that I was there for. But
if they had run with it, they could have done a We Were Right video as well.
I'll never forget standing in the laundromat in my old apartment complex there. And one of my neighbors goes, hey, you're Game of Thrones fan. What do you think's going to happen? And I said, oh, Dany's going to die. I really think Dany's going to die. And she was so upset. You can't do that to my girl. And I said, well, yeah, I think that's kind of what the show's saying, too. It did her wrong. And that was kind of the point. But anyways, all that to say, that's the only prediction I've had that has ever really come true, Alden. It's the only one. Only one. So I don't know if you have a better prediction record than I do.
I think I do have a decent prediction record, but I on principle battle with doing them because of what they create. Because
I guess you can predict Darth Plagueis is coming back until it's right, and just keep throwing darts at the wall, or you can look at the themes that are forthcoming in the show. But let's go a different direction with the conversation and go to our silly predictions. Alden, we will alternate asking the questions here. I'll begin with number one. How many times will we hear someone say fire and blood in the first season?
Oh man, so many. I wouldn't be surprised if it's in the first scene. Like, I genuinely think that it's, I mean, the opening of Game of Thrones, not that they're the same, because the opening of Game of Thrones is setting up the lingering mystical threat. But I think that it was so like, here's what we are and here's what we're about, and here's what we're doing, and here's the end game. And I think that if you're doing that for House of the Dragon, you got to get in there early with that positioning statement. You know, radio, you got to get the positioning statement.
You got to position. Hit that post and got a position there. All right. So what do you think? What do you think I'm also getting this up here on another computer because I don't want to mess myself up here.
In the first season. Wow.
In the first season, total 10 episodes. How many times? Almost an over and under. How many times do you think someone will say fire and blood? Not fire and blood, but fire and blood.
Fire and blood. I'm going to say 21 times across 10 episodes.
21 times.
Ooh, that's my prediction.
I was gonna go higher. But then again, I thought about it. Higher is kind of silly. I think it's a good number, but I'm going to go lower. I'm going to say 17. 21 and 17. Mark it down. I feel like I was on Price is Right, and I was underbidding you there. That's not fair of me. That's not
Here
fair.
we go. I'm gonna. This is going in the record.
There you go. All right. What else? What else do you have?
17. Alden is 21. What are the prizes here? Nothing.
Nothing.
These are Stan Lee no prizes. I don't know if you remember the no prizes.
I tried to win a lot of G.I. Joe no prizes back in the day.
Yeah. Nothing ever came in.
Nothing ever came.
Number 2 is who will emerge as someone the audience loves to hate?
Yeah.
Well, this is gotta be my boy. Gotta be the Rogue Prince.
Yeah. See. Yeah. I think that is. I think that is a good answer. I really think it is. It's that class. You know. It's. I look at like the Hound, but then I look more at Jaime Lannister. Man, did I hate Jaime season 1, as you're supposed to. And I remember when by season 2, when he's being captured and he's just kind of speaking some sense to Catelyn, I remember thinking, God damn it, I think I kind of like this guy. So yeah, I think I'm going to go with that too. I think the Rogue Prince, Matt Smith.
Yeah, I think so. And then it kind of ties in with your next question here, number 3.
It will. Who will emerge as a dastardly villain that everyone still roots for? So kind of ties in with that. You might just love to hate, because like, look, people love to hate Joffrey, though. That's more of a Joffrey thing. This is a little bit more of the Hound later on, but I don't know. Actually, no, the Hound's not even. I think it's the Cersei Lannister question, right?
Yeah, who's dastardly, and we're like, get him.
That wine sip at the end of season 6 was the greatest wine sip in the history of wine on TV, film, otherwise, literature, anywhere. And it wasn't a good act.
No, it was. I mean,
but it was earned. I was rooting for it.
The choose violence meme that we have now. Like, I'm going to wake up today and choose violence. That was birthed by Game of Thrones, and it was birthed by Cersei Lannister. It's become part of just internet vernacular. Even if you're not a Ice and Fire fan or Game of Thrones fan, that comes from Cersei. Who's going to be our choose violence favorite? Nikki in the comments has Aemond, which, you know, if you're watching the trailers, you can catch a glimpse. Yeah,
with the eye patch. Yeah.
So he could be a favorite. Nikki, who has way more book knowledge than I, by far, and has read these histories.
Nikki's a better person than you. That's what I've been telling you. That's what I've been telling you for a long time.
It's also true.
So are you going with Aemond? You're going with Aemond.
I'm going to back Nikki's choice of Aemond because he has been teasing me with some sinister. Like Nikki keeps saying, I want to tell you what's going to happen, but God, I just want your reaction.
That's going to be great. Robert Meadows asked could Kristen Cole be that person? I think that's possible, but I'm going to back up our friend here, Ranger Donald, with both parts of his answer. Alicent Hightower, but perhaps for the wrong reasons. The Cersei connection has already been discussed. Olivia Cook, who will be playing the older present day, whatever version you want to say of Alicent, has said, yeah, she's kind of maybe a Cersei. But then she kind of came out and said, well, she's not the straight up villain. And I think Rhaenyra's got her issues. Everyone in this show's got their issues. They got their good sides. They got their bad sides. But I think Alicent could take the brunt of scorn. And therefore, you might end up, even if she makes some bad decisions or does things you don't like, you might be on her side.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to highlight or platform any toxicity, but you can already feel the bubbling, simmering rage in the Alicent conversations out there in fandom, in good ways and bad ways. Some people excited to analyze, but some people, I mean, our young Alicent performer already had to. I'm blanking on her name. I apologize.
Emily Carey, I think.
Emily Carey. Yeah. She already had to delete tweets because of people coming at her because of her defense of Alicent, and so that's already. Eyes are on the topic, is what I'm saying.
Princess Rhaenyra's already been, even your wonderful prep video, and even in comments, she. I don't think the marketing's positioned her as a hero, so to speak. I don't get that vibe, but she's definitely on one side of the conversation, and you haven't spent as much time with Alicent. So now we got this woman v woman kind of situation that I hope the show deals with thematically, but we'll see. but she does some things, that might not be good. So I'm curious to see what that reaction will be and how the journey with that character not just will go in the story, but go in the fandom. For those who are like, hey, I don't know any of these characters, I'm ready to explore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what else Game of Thrones explores, Ken?
What's that?
Sex.
It does.
It does often. Number 4 here. How many sex scenes will make this show uncomfortable to watch around family or on an airplane? Never had that experience. Is that a firsthand thing?
So I was on a flight doing some stand-up with Mark Ellis, and when we fly, we don't necessarily always sit together. So I was by myself, middle of the seat, got stuck in the middle, and I know, they've got Game of Thrones on. This is like 2 years ago. I was like, let me just watch it, and I put on one of my favorite episodes, season 1, episode 7. You win or you die. Oh God, I love that episode. That is where the sex position was birthed. That is the play with her ass. That is that. And I'm just on the airplane like this, like holding my screen up, like totally forgot. So there's that. This is not a show I watch with my family, so I didn't have that problem with my mom or dad there. But yeah, as Ranger Donald says, Matt Smith's junk will definitely show up multiple times. Jay from Nowhere says, easy answer 69. Hey, we're being a little raunchy because this show will be as well. Matt Smith has already said at some point, I turned to the directors and said, have we had enough sex? Paraphrasing there, of course. I think in total, season 1, we're looking for total uncomfortable to watch scenes. So you could divide it up, Alden, into it's just some stupid. Yeah. That was romantic. The lens went fuzzy and foggy versus, oh no, I hope no one's, oh man. And I say you're going to have 6 of those scenes.
Yeah, uncomfortable ones. I think I'll come in just under at probably 4.
Yeah.
Specifically for this question. But you're right that as we expand it out, like we've got some married people in love in this show. Like what about Corliss and Rhaenys if they're just like, we've been married for a while, we're just gonna we're making love. Like that's not uncomfortable.
Like it's a 1970s game show. We're making whoopee. Yeah, no, absolutely. And then you can celebrate. I hope they have some older folks getting down. That'd be great.
Yeah.
And then the other side of this here, it is Game of Thrones. This is why we're having this conversation. There's going to be scenes where you're like, well, that's just a sweet scene between 2 people in love. And then you're going to have to remind yourself who are probably related. And then comes that whole other angle there. So maybe
we're going to get back to that.
Yes.
That's on the list. I would like to point out that I did, while talking about this with you just now, I Googled how many sex scenes are in Game of Thrones season 1, just to see if anyone had broken it down. Yeah. And it doesn't have an answer, but there is a season 4, I believe, or season 3. There's a season 3 note. A staggering 77.5% of episodes 31 to 40 have featured a nude scene. So,
wow. Yeah. It's
someone do the math out there.
It's paid cable. That means less now than it did back in the day when I was a kid. It was you were paying for the raunch. Okay. So I said 6. You said you took under 4. Okay. And then 4. Romo in the chat, who's going to call in here a little bit, says 5. All right. Now leaving the bedroom or wherever, we're going to this question. I mentioned it earlier. How many times will the lack of mushroom, and we're going to assume that's going to hold. How many times will the lack of mushroom be a trending topic between episode 1 and episode 2? So after Sunday night, between the episode, how many times are you going to log on to Twitter and see #mushroom, and it's just a bunch of upset Song of Ice and Fire, World of Westeros fans upset that mushroom isn't in the show?
I honestly don't know if it's going to happen because I don't think that they're going to build enough Twitter momentum. But I will say, so I'm going to say it's not going to trend. I'm going to say 0.
0. 0 is an answer.
I'm going to say 0.
Okay.
With the caveat of, but we will see mushroom mentions in our comments and in other people's comments.
There's going to be one person. This will be like, this show sucks. Ain't no mushroom. And you know what?
Mushroom.
That's their opinion to have. For those who are not familiar with it, in the book Fire and Blood, Volume 1, for many, many years, this character of Mushroom, who's a court jester, for lack of a better description, or that's an exact description, is all around the events, has an opinion, and is very funny. Really, I thought there were some laugh out loud moments with that character. But it doesn't look like Mushroom is going to factor into the show.
Is Mushroom now the Tom Bombadil of George's world? Where he's going to become the thing everyone rallies around as a glaring omission in the adaptation.
Years later, there's still videos angry at Peter Jackson about the lack of Tom Bombadil.
Which is ironic to me, just as a side note, because Tom Bombadil is everything that goes against explainer culture.
Yeah.
How does he do what he does? I don't know. That's sort of been the thing forever.
Jay from Nowhere says, so Mushroom is 3PO. That's a good way to look at it. Sort of. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. All right, that is me. I said my answer is 1. I think there will be maybe Monday morning, maybe Monday afternoon, maybe if all the news in the world, the wars and the trees, maybe if all that slows down just enough for like an hour, #Mushroom will trend. And then it will just turn into people upset at the prices of mushrooms for their crudité. That'll lead to a different discussion.
Very reasonable. Yeah, definitely a reasonable transition of topic there. So number 6 here is over and under.
It also was $4.99, idiot. Look to that. Never mind. Okay.
Oh no, the prices right now are crazy. We could do a whole podcast on that. Over under. How many people will be burned by dragon fire in season 1? Over 50 or under 50? We have a tiebreaker set up here too.
Yeah, I do have a tiebreaker set up. I set the number at 50. So Vegas odds. So we're looking at in season 1, how many people will be burned by Dragonfire? Because we have already seen some Dragonfire in those TV spots and trailers. So we know some is coming. We got some fighting. Knives will be drawn, as I think Rainey sort of says there. We got Range Donald's taking the over. We got we got Lauren Roma taking the way over. Moises taking over 50 as well.
Yeah, I'm taking over. I'm taking way over too.
Okay, I might have said it too low. I'm going to go over.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I would absolutely take the under if we had worded it by how many people are going to be sentenced to death by Dragonfire. Who's getting the Varys? Who's getting the Dickon Tarley? Who's getting that? Probably not that many. But if a dragon does a flyby on a bunch of troops, number skyrockets immediately, and that's a different thing. Death by Dragonfire by law is a different thing.
Jay from Nowhere says now people are going to be pausing their screens to count victims. Exactly. Only Casterly Talk fans are going to be doing that. So since you and I both took the over there, we are now going to say, and this could explain it to yourself any way you want. The tiebreaker is how many people burned in episode 1. We're looking for a specific number.
Oof, episode 1. I'm going to say 3. I think it'll be a sentencing of some kind, like a.
David McKay says not enough. That's fair. So you're saying 3 in episode 1?
Yeah.
Of any kind of dragon burning, flyby, sentencing, 3. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, it's either 0 or 8. I'm gonna go 8. I think there's some bleeps gonna go down, but I want to say 0, but I'm gonna say 8 to be silly.
8, yeah, and that's the thing is that they could totally throw a curveball. Like I feel like it's gonna be a simmering sort of start. Like we see dragons, but maybe we don't get a dragon battle till later. But all it takes is one, like, hey, remember when you rode Balerion, and then all of a sudden we get a flashback, and it's just 80 guys.
It could be a flashback. It could be anything. A lot of people back it up by 0, but I answered 8. Mark me down as 8. Mark it down, dude. Over the line, Donnie. Mark it down as 8. Though in my heart, I think the answer might be 0, but you got 3.
Yep. And then Ken had 8. All right, it's in the record.
Okay. All right. Was that mine? That was mine. So yeah, you're up next here. Now we're into your. I wrote the first 6. These are the last 4 of yours.
These are the ones that I added in here, and we're getting back to the weird stuff.
Sicko.
Will we get the Westerosi incest stuff out of the way in the pilot like we did in GOT? Because GOT does not bury the lead at all.
No.
If that freaked you out and you wanted to, there's the exit sign.
Yeah, you gotta get it out of the way. I think, and look, we're laughing and giggling, but we know anyone, you and I, and anyone watching right now, either watched the show, read the books, or both, and has somewhat of an idea that, oh, the Targaryen family, we definitely heard what they did. But I got to tell you, there's some folks who are just like, oh, cool, another show. Is it going to be like the other show where only one couple was like this?
Yeah.
And I think they're going to be a little shocked at the wide berth, so to speak, on the chart. So I think, yes, I think right from the get-go, within the first 20 minutes, we're going to get that all cards on the table.
Right, because Viserys' relationship to Rhaenyra's mom,
Aemma, yeah.
Aemma, they're not siblings, right? But they are related.
Someone check me fast in the I can't get the up that quick, but I think you're right.
Yeah, and I think even Balon and Elisa, their parents, Daemon's parents, everything. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be out of the way either in dialogue or visually, and it's going to be a whole thing. And you're right. I mean, that was the big thing. Even people that know nothing knew that Game of Thrones part of it. They knew there was dragons. They knew there were swords. They maybe that there were wolves, and they knew that there was a brother and a sister doing the diddly. Now, when you transfer that over into this setting, it's important to remember. When Cersei is justifying it to herself, how she sleeps at night, it's because the Targaryens were the model. She's like, oh, so they can do it. So it's cool for hundreds of years, but it's not cool for us. And that's part of her sort of reckoning. It's a thing. Yeah.
Right or wrong, that's the path she takes. Douglas Dubois is main character for his cousins, 100%. Yeah, for his cousins. Yeah, that tracks. No, look, and this it's weird. I don't know if I've really ever discussed this on a podcast or even in a bar. One of the weirdest successes, and I'll put a question mark or quotation marks around that, of Game of Thrones, not necessarily the books, I'm talking about the show reaching the general public, was getting people to kind of root and understand the love between Cersei and Jaime. And then if that didn't work for you, at the end, kind of, rooting for Jon and Dany, even after it was revealed on the show what it was.
Yeah. I mean, they had massive amounts of people saying the words, well, aunt and nephew is a little different. And the fact that those words were ever said by any of us,
it's one of the things where people are like, end of season 7, he knocks on that door in the ship. People are like, hot. Like, well, what are you talking about here? What are you talking about?
Like, well, yes, it's his aunt, but she was little. The age gap between Rhaegar and Dany is so large. And
it's George's world, obviously based on some way past histories. It's fascinating. So, will this show? Maybe if you're tuning in, you're just going to see it early on and be like, oh yeah, it's Game of Thrones. I expected it. So who knows?
Yeah. And hey, I'll give you this, House Targaryen. From me to House Targaryen, none of you are as bad as Craster. And for that,
exactly,
it's fine.
Die, Craster, die. All right, next question here, and then we're going to get to some questions and then calls on our time here. We got which ancestral sword will we see first? Blackfire or Dark Sister? We got two big swords, obviously more probably on the way. That would make sense, but Blackfire or Dark Sister? I don't know. I have my answer. What do you have?
I'm going to say Dark Sister, not just because I've already become a Daemon fanboy, but because I don't think that, like, when you see King Robert, when you see Joffrey or anybody, or even in the brief scenes of the Mad King, the king doesn't usually sit on the Iron Throne while wielding their sword. Like even Ned, like he's not walking around Winterfell with ice. That's like busted out for certain things. Heartsbane is up on the mantle at Hornhill, so it's like, it just kind of makes me think that Daemon absolutely is going to flash Dark Sister whenever he can. We do see Blackfire in some of the trailers and teasers on the throne, so maybe that's an important moment. But I think that it has probably more of a shelf life.
Split in the comments so far. Moises saying Dark Sister, Douglas saying Blackfire. I'm going with Blackfire. And it's not going to be as exciting as, say, Daemon pulling out Dark Sister at any second that he can, which, I love that joke. That kind of tracks for me. But I think you're going to see it in just some sort of boring official. He's got it, almost using it as a cane on the throne type of way. I think you'll see that first, and I think we've seen some of that in the trailer, but I have no idea when that shows up, of course.
Right.
But that's what I think. Where you're going to see Blackfire, but Dark Sister is going to be the first to maybe have impact or maybe even explanation. But I'll go Blackfire.
Yeah. It might be one of those situations too, like seen, but maybe not actively in the plot. Whereas Damon's like, I'll kill someone with this one. And
Douglas is right there with Viserys. Can't stop waving that thing around about in the trailer. Even uses it as a walking stick. Exactly. You wouldn't part an old man from his walking stick, now would you? There you go. All right, that's a good one there. Two more. You're up next year.
Yeah, this is a big one. Number 9. Number 9, very important in Game of Thrones. Always an important episode. This is an important question.
That's right.
Any last-minute predictions for the opening credits? And will it be a map? Because apparently the people that have seen the pilot were not shown the opening credits, is what I've heard. I've seen that in a few things. The opening credit sequence has not been shown.
Interesting, which could mean it's still rendering and someone's trying to export it from a MacBook Air that's burning. Raman Djawadi's like, get it out. Ooh, okay, this is great. This has been a big question. I think kind of musically, the kind of the variation we've heard already, I think will be the basis of it. I think it could be something way bigger than that. But I think in terms of map, I think it will be the painted table, but kind of as we've seen it in some of the shots of the show. We'll dark, a little black paint, some red. I think it will be just the painted table.
Now, follow up on the map question, just because we're on the topic. I, just before the show, saw photos, and I'm going to text them to you now. So this is great radio. But I saw photos of King Viserys's diorama model of Old Valyria. Is it possible that we incorporate that in? Maybe we start on his table with his big model, and then we move into Westeros.
Ooh, I like that. I can see that. Oh, Alden he's texting me right now on air here. Okay.
You see a picture in that tweet. Yeah. There's a picture of him like brushing it and painting it, and getting it all ready. He's very passionate about his model.
Yeah. Is Viserys like miniatures? Is that what this is? Ooh, look at that. He's a miniature guy.
There's the last image is him in his like nightgown, nightshirt.
He's
got his huge model, and then his beautiful young wife sitting off to the side, like, are you going to pay attention to me? Or are you just looking at your model?
Hey, that's fine. That's fair. That's with me looking at this picture, and Grace is like, hey, I'm on the same couch. I'm like, Viserys has a castle. That's fascinating. That's fascinating. Yeah, Ray Jones says King Viserys is a nerd. I like that idea, though. Is that your prediction? I'm going painted table. Yeah. Stick with a version of the painted table. You're going with Viserys and his pictures. I love that.
Yeah, that's my move.
I've got a mini Christmas village. The train goes in and out of it. Watch. All right, King Viserys, calm down there, buddy.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
That's a great one. That's a great question. Final prediction here. Will there be some kind of clever meta prequel reference to GOT? Alden, clarify for the audience specifically what you mean by this.
So, we don't, just in general, on all the shows that you and I do, we're not leaks people and that type of stuff, which is not shade at anyone. It's just how we roll. And, but in the rumblings of, premiere reactions, people that have gotten to see this episode, I saw somebody say there's a lovely tribute to Daenerys right at the top of this, a lovely homage. Okay. And that got me thinking, like, probably musicality, like, some sort of theme, something like that, because it's not, Nikki and I were joking off air. It's not going to be Drogon with her body. She gets resurrected, and then she's like, our family is crazy. Let's talk about it. There's not going to be, Elijah Wood at the beginning of The Hobbit, where they brought him back so they could tee it up. Like,
like Drogon holding Dany's body and then like a record scratch. That was me now. But let's go 200 years ago. Like, okay.
Yeah. You're probably wondering how we got here. There used to be more dragons, just like me. I don't think it's going to be that. A fun theory I had, I was like, what if this show opens and it's Amelia, hair down, and it's like young season 1 Amelia, and she's like with Illyrio, and he's like, you need to do your studies, you need to learn about your family, and then it opens up. So I don't think it's gonna be anything like that, but
okay. I get it. Okay,
is there gonna be a thing that's like, let's in a cute, fun way reference the story that comes later, which happens in the Star Wars prequels, it happens in Better Call Saul, like anything like that?
No, I think in episode 1 there will be, and putting your Daenerys thing aside, outside of that, I'll say outside of that, if that holds true what you're talking about, outside of that, I think there will be something. It might come from, to me, in a reference from like Viserys first talking about protecting this dynasty. You don't want some usurper taking it away. If we, we don't do this right, we could do this wrong. Kind of like George Lucas talking about American Graffiti 2. It'll be that. I think it'll be that. It will make you think of Robert's Rebellion, Tywin, and the end of the whole shebang.
Yeah, it's going to be something like that, I feel, too. That's a great call. On the mind of the usurper, we know that House Baratheon does show up in the trailer to bend the knee, and just to, probably just a formality that they were invited over. If it was sort of like a House Baratheon is no threat whatsoever, like they could never come for House Targaryen, that type of thing.
Towards the camera like this. That'll be good.
And God, let me just say while we mention them, I hope anyone this season is as quotable as Bobby B in season 1 of Game of Thrones. Like, because part of my love for Game of Thrones is the quotes. We speak in Game of Thrones quote in the same way we speak in Star Wars quote.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And I've pro wrestling talk. I can use pro wrestling terms to describe the plot lines in Game of Thrones. And I do it with my friends from the wrestling business that I worked with for well over 20 years now. So it's fun to do that. So it all comes down to quotes. I think there will be some quotes. The thing about that is, Game of Thrones, the series, big, epic, sweeping fantasy, but at times it's so funny, has such heart, such character. And so far, the marketing for this one is that same kind of big civil war, fight for the throne. And I haven't seen a lot of humor in the trailer, but I think it will exist. It has to. It just follows the storytelling. Mushroom or no, there'll be some jokes.
Yeah, there's no way that you make a show with Tyrion Lannister being as big as he is and then not try to not recapture that character, but to have the sort of levity that comes from even through very serious topics. Like some of the funniest things are Tyrion and Varys. Even when it's deadly serious, their barbs are very funny. Stuff like that, or someone in a fit of rage. Like some of Robert's best things are from a fit of rage, like "Run back to Winterfell, I'll have your head on a spike." Like that's hilarious, but he's being serious.
Yeah, no, that's a great point there. I'm entirely sure you are entirely sure of what I'm talking about. I have one of those.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. We have done our predictions, our very serious predictions. It's really all about the sex scenes and that number. We'll start seeing if they come true. And after this season 1, when it ends, we'll come back to this sheet here, Alden, and see how close we got, which means someone out there, because it ain't going to be me, needs to start counting the deaths by dragon.
Yeah, we're going to have somebody on that official Dragonfire correspondent for the show. Winner of the wager sheet gets chips and salsa.
And I think it's going to be, you and I, it's we got a dinner bet, but I think Jay from nowhere in chat, it's up to you to start counting the deaths. I'm going to volunteer there.
Yes.
All right. We're going to take some calls here. We had her on the show last time we were alive. She's the host of the Galactic podcast and a lot of other wonderful things. Please welcome back to the show. Lauren Romo is here. Romo, what's going on?
Hey. What's going on, you two?
Hello.
We're just talking about sex on Game of Thrones. That's what it's all about. Right?
I mean, honestly, that show is probably more, known for dragons, but Game of Thrones is probably known for sex scenes, like 100%. Like
it absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely is. Absolutely is. You can't deny it. It's why when I had this conversation with my mother at the beginning of at the end of season 1. She just had kind of heard that there was a show, and she's like, "I hear there's this like Game of Thrones show, and there's some books." And my mom loves to read. She's like, "Do you think I should pick up the books?" I went, "No, do not pick up. Do not put it down. Whatever books, leave the bookstore."
Which is arguably a worse thing for her to consume than the show. Like she going even harder into the grime.
I've told, I know
True.
I've told this show, but told this before the show. But if anyone's watching for the first time or listening, I read. I think it was Feast for Crows. I was reading at my parents' house. Here I am, at the time probably late 30s, reading this book in their backyard, just relaxing, having a vacation. And there was one particular scene that George wrote, and I just was like, I got embarrassed. I put the book down. I left. I went for a walk. I can't read this at my parents' house. This is not right morally. It's wrong. It's wrong.
I feel
George.
dirty.
It's wrong.
It's a dirty book, Ken.
Dirty book.
Who knew?
Romo, what are your viewing plans? Who do you kick out of your house when you start watching a Game of Thrones show?
No, I am totally by myself, and that's how I want it. Like, I want, just kind of like Alden was saying, like, I want to sit down, not worry about it. My cat, I'm going to make sure he is
Lock the
sleeping
cat up.
or just not in the vicinity because I have to focus. But yeah, that will be my viewing. Maybe a couple of my friends are Game of Thrones fans,
Right.
so maybe. But again, there are limitations, as both of you have said as well. Like, you can't talk. You can laugh if there's something like, a little humorous.
Something legitimate.
But
that's when everybody becomes a critic. We're all like, that was not worthy of the chortle that you just let out. All right. That was not worthy of the whoa.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Indeed.
So that's my criteria, if that happens. But most likely I'll be watching it very dark and nice with my TV.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for it.
Sorry, someone's either I'm having connection problems or someone else is. So bear with us there.
We're back. We're normal now, I think.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. It's all right. Sorry, Lauren. No, that's great. Kick your cat out, and watch this Game of Thrones. Well, what are you looking forward to, Lauren? This first episode and this first season, depending on where you at as a fan in terms of. Will it live up to the books? Are you a book reader? Have you read Volume 1 of Fire and Blood? Where are you at? What do you want to get from this show?
Yeah, so I mean, not a book reader, so I'm very excited just to get back into Westeros, just to get back into that overall lore, that just story, and I'm very excited for the politics. I mean, that was a big. I know you guys talked about it a little bit earlier. Like, the politics of Game of Thrones was so good. Like, I mean, you just didn't know what was going to happen. A lot of times, especially from a fan like me who didn't read the Game of Thrones books at all. So a lot of the backstabbing and everything was very like, oh my God, that person did this. Like, the Red Wedding is still one of my like, oh my God, why did that happen to these characters?
Why?
Like, right. So I mean, that's what I'm really hoping for. I'm hoping for the first episode to just set that up, like set those politics up really well, and just establish that. You guys knew the backstabbing in Game of Thrones. It's going to be 10 times worse. Like, this is a family. It's not just like 7 different people or 7 different houses. It's one house with like all these different, personalities, and it's going to be 10 times worse. So that's
a really great point. That's a really great point. Not to cut you off, Lauren, but just like to jump on that. To put it in those terms, it's not a story of like the War of the Five Kings and like all of these different goals, because at the end of the day, the conflict here is, how do we accomplish our goals? Right. We at the end of the day, we all are House Targaryen, and the fracturing of one party, of one house versus all these clashings, because in the simplest terms, early Game of Thrones was Stark's good, Lannister's bad.
Right.
And that's what a lot of people sort of grabbed onto. Here, you have to define that without the advent of labels and sigils and all that. It's all, in your own, like, keep your house in order. That being a phrase, and just in life is sort of the thesis here.
Right.
Yeah, I think one of the big things for me is on Viserys and how he's been described by HBO of a good man, but not necessarily a good king, and how I think what that means to me isn't like a Robert Baratheon of wins the war but does not a rule and drinks and sleeps around until he kills them all. I think with Viserys it just might be like, I need to make everyone happy because we have 70 years of peace. And I feel these rumblings have been going on for a while, and we've got to keep it. and he's not perhaps strong enough to keep that, or is the outside forces pull him apart? I don't know. I don't know how they're going to play it out on the show. I know it plays out maybe in the story, in the books, but I think it's a
I mean, it makes me think of Tywin Lannister's father, Tytos. Like that whole business of Tywin looks back on him and he's like, yeah, he was a good guy, but he left our house in a state of ruin by the time that I took over, and he sucked. He was awful at leading. And he compartmentalizes the fact that he was a decent man with the fact that he was a terrible, terrible for House Lannister. Yeah. So it's sort of a similar theme.
Yeah, it's just like Tywin too. His whole thing about family dynasty. Like I think that will be a huge. You guys talk about themes. I think that's might be a theme, definitely within this series. Of the dynasty of the Targaryens, and then obviously these other houses that. Want to maybe take that mantle over. So
and the contrast between Tywin's point of view on that and someone like Ned, like it's obviously way more complicated than what I'm about to say, but a common observation that I love is that Ned gave his children love and protection and togetherness, but didn't necessarily prepare them for the world. Whereas that's all Tywin did, and they had no love and no togetherness. And so you have this incredible mind in Tyrion, this perfect knight in Jaime, and this also incredible mind in a different way in Cersei. They're all so capable, no love. Whereas the Stark kids are all love.
Yeah. It's a great way to look at it there. Yeah, and someone asked earlier in chat, very early on the show, will it be a Tywin-like character? And Otto Hightower is the closest in a lot of ways. There's some connections between Corlys, Sea Snake, and Tywin, just in terms of family first and what you do with that. Obviously, families are big in this world, but I think that's a closer one, the Otto and Tywin thing so far. But it will not be 1-to-1, obviously. It'll be each character will be their own.
Right.
Yeah. And Otto's going to be interesting to explore just because the Lannisters are important monetarily, and a lot of people are tied up with them in finances. But the Hightowers are they're tied up with everyone in terms of like culture, like Old Town and all that stuff. Like they're an ideological institution. Like their house is the same location where we keep our knowledge, where we keep our maesters and all that, and where that all comes from. And so they have a different type of power that I'm interested in exploring.
Yeah. I love that there.
Yeah, I'm excited for the Hightowers. Like that's a family that I'm not familiar with, so like I'm excited to explore that for sure.
Yeah, Hightowers and Vallarans are going to be new to a lot of folks. They are in and around the world. HBO's Game of Thrones kind of infamously cut out the Vallarans from Stannis' side and all that kind of stuff. You can see those conversation threads out there.
Is House Hightower still around by the time of the war?
I can't see. Honestly, it's tough for me to remember sometimes. Someone can help me in chat, because the show definitely, like, again, going to the Vallarans, who were, at the Battle of Blackwater Bay, and not no more, Billy, not no more. So the quote, young guns.
I mean, they could have been reduced into a teeny tiny. I mean, the official Telltale game had some of those houses that were reduced to smaller, like House Forrester and things.
Forrester, yeah. It's not House Gardner that vanished, that kind of thing. But there, Lauren. Before I let you go, thank you for calling for the segment. Really love it. Going into the show again, like you said, you're not someone who has read Fire and Blood Volume 1. You know a little bit of the history. You watched the show. You loved the show. From the outside, you've listed some of the characters or some of the houses you love, but are there any specific characters you're really excited to get to know more from the trailers, anything you've seen out there?
I think the character that I am really interested in is Alicent Hightower. I think, again, you guys were talking about in the trailer, you kind of see one side of her, but now it's like, okay, what's her side of the story? Like, why is she acting this way towards these specific people and everything like that? Like, she, again, like the whole Hightower family, but hers particular, I'm really excited just to see kind of like what transpires between her and the Targaryens and everything like that. I'm in for, like, I'm just ready. I'm ready to get back to that world. I'm so excited for sure.
Final bonus question, big one here. Some of the themes that seem to be at play in this show, some of the stuff that's been discussed, particularly around Emma Darcy and their description of Rhaenyra. the gender roles, women in this world. Is there anything you are expecting, want, or just interested to see how the show deals with, Lauren?
Yeah, I think I'm interested to see. Obviously, us three know the backlash of season 8, which again, that's one of my favorites. It's one of all of our favorite, I think, seasons
I love
of
it.
Game
Yeah,
of Thrones.
I know folks don't, but yeah.
Right. So I'm interested to see how they do that with Rhaenyra. Is it her name's Rhaenyra's?
Rhaenyra, yeah.
Rhaenyra.
Yeah. There's Rhaenys. There's
Expect that
Rhaenys.
to happen. Yeah.
And then
I'm
there's
already
Rhaenyra
expecting
from
that to
the
happen.
Conquest.
And like to make that even worse, Rhaenys is gonna be the one counseling Rhaenyra a lot
Right.
about women being passed up and things. So it's like there's gonna be a lot of that conversational fumbling.
Right. So, but I'm interested to see like how you're saying, Ken, like how they handle that, because I think how we know how it ended with Dany, but what was it like when actual Targaryens were in play? I mean, clearly we know it seems that they didn't respect women, but did she try to change? Obviously, it seems like that's what she wants to do. She wants to change the thought process. So how does that play out? How do they handle that and everything?
And with this house, like you're right to differentiate it a little bit, because none of the houses of Westeros wanted a woman on the throne. And none of the houses of Westeros were ruled by women. But the difference of Targaryens is that they did let women get in the mix. There were no women warriors of House Stark. There were women warriors of House Targaryen. There were women dragon riders of House Targaryen, and they were very important. So House Targaryen, I'm not giving them props for being progressive. They're not. But they at least were like, oh, you can kick some ass? Great.
Right.
Where the other houses didn't even do that.
Yeah,
so
they're like almost there. Like you almost got it.
Right. And
you almost got it.
That was big for Arya because of those stories, because of the stories of the Targaryen women.
Yeah, they're the only house that ever had women that got put down in the histories that way.
Right.
Yeah. The Vale as well. Yes, Lysa.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
Queen of Thorn. It's a general statement, of course, what you're saying there. All right, Lauren, thank you so much. We're going to be hearing a lot more from you here this season. We appreciate your thoughts. Thank you, and lock your cat up and get ready to watch.
I'm excited. I can't wait to hear your guys' reactions, deep dives. I can't wait. Real excited, guys.
Thank you, Lauren. Check out Lauren on the Galactic Podcast there. All right, final caller of the day here. Then it's almost time for us to get out because I've got 2 hungry chihuahuas. That is how all my shows end. Are the chihuahuas hungry? Then we go. All right, calling in right now, he's also in the chat, is our man of the banners, Ranger Donald Long. How you doing, buddy? I know you're really excited. You've been waiting for this for a long time. You got your Best Buy home theater system ready to go? Who are you kicking out of your house when this show drops?
Nothing, because I live by myself, so I don't have to kick anybody out.
Smart man.
You're just not inviting anyone over. Doors are locked. The way is shut. It was built by Donald Long, and it's kept by Donald Long. The way is shut.
Everybody coming over to Donald's house to watch it like a giant in the tunnel, and he's standing his ground.
Now, I have one friend I allow over. He
Yeah.
follows the same exact rules I do. No food, no drink, no talking.
You're
not allowed to come back next time. So.
Yeah, we're a bunch of fun people, aren't we? We're horrible at parties. Now, my pal Jed Murrow has wonderful big Game of Thrones viewing parties. I don't think she's planning one this year, but she goes, "Oh, I'll definitely have to invite you one." I went, "Don't. You don't have to. I'm not going."
I'm not offended if you don't ask.
Yeah,
it's the same when people like to go to like the Marvel opening nights and hear the screaming and yelling. Like, I can't hear shit here.
Yeah,
I can't hear anything. Like the dialogue at all. When like, ooh, big moment, yeah. But then
I will say
the big explanation, nothing.
I will say the Kenobi screening that we've referenced now a few times
was
a rare instance of everybody being on their behavior.
Love that.
In our room, I was in the slightly smaller Galaxy stage. If I can capture that for every time, great. But there's no way to guarantee it, and I'm too paranoid. So cannot happen.
Exactly. Like I said, we're fun folks. Trust us. We're fun. Ranger Donald, what are you looking forward to most in episode 1? What do you hope you maybe see? Maybe what do you get out of it? What are you looking for?
More of the history we never got really, because we really just got the Starks history, the Lannister history. The Targaryens, we only got Dany and Viserys, and Viserys like 1 or 2 scenes. So I hope they talk about more of the history with Aegon the Conqueror and all that in the Valyria.
Yeah.
So more of that, I'm more looking forward to than anything else.
Yeah, that's a great point. We're talking about dragons, we're talking about magic, we're talking about politics and the characters and the interpersonal relationships. But I love lore. I don't want anyone to think otherwise. I love lore, and I think you have a lot of wonderful history that is, at this point in the story, more recent history. So you got folks who are like, yeah, my grandfather, Aegon the Conqueror. Yeah, I got some stories about him. I think that's fantastic.
That's true. I mean, we talk about sex position with Baelish, but the Viserys sex position scene, where he starts going down the roster of dragons and all of their whole thing, like that's one of the closest things we got, and it's become a very memeable scene because it is awkward and you hate him, but to be able to talk, to your point, Donald, like the fact that it was all right there. Like, let's talk about, like, we're seeing the Iron Throne before, evidently, some swords got removed from the steps before they reined in that aesthetic a little bit.
Yeah.
Like maybe they will talk about, like, and again, by the way, we know whose sword this is. Like, we know whose ass got kicked for this to happen. Things like that could be fun.
That's great. Character you are most excited to see and maybe most excited to root against, Donald?
I'm excited to see is Rhaenyra. That's my favorite part of the book, her character and stuff, but also Daemon just for the fun of it, really. Yeah. Just for Matt Smith going off, being his crazy self.
I think it's it's great. I really love the castings. I love everything we've seen so far from both of them, Matt and Emma. So yeah, that's good stuff there. Any sleeper character, any character that's maybe not as prominent that you're excited to see play out?
I think not prominent. I think the most underrated character that people are going to look looking not forward to is the Valyrians. With Corus Valyrian, and because nobody's talking about them really. They're a big showcase in the trailers and everything else. We never got them in the original show. They're in the books, but in this show, I think they're going to be a big sleeper hit in this show.
I really agree with you there. Steve Toussaint as Corlys Velaryon, I think, is going to be one of those maybe a scene stealer type of character. We'll see how it plays out, of course. I love it. Yeah, I don't think people are talking about them as much, that entire family, and I think they will shortly. We hope. I think there's a lot there, and that character, the Sea Snake, is just got a fascinating history. Those 9 voyages, a lot there, which is why they're talking, spin-off show with that character, animated or otherwise. I'm with you on that. All right. Any final thoughts, Donald? Any final thoughts, predictions before episode 1?
Well, season 1 prediction, not really, but season 2, do you think we'll get it at the same time next year, or will we have to wait another? Interesting.
That's a great question. We had got into such a rhythm with Game of Thrones, right? I always talk about that Comic-Con vibe. They were the rock stars at Comic-Con every year, and the show was always just about to, it just always seemed to wrap up till later when the show, the production schedule kind of changed for various reasons. I think we will. I think August will be the time for a while. Alden, what do you think?
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I hadn't thought of it till you said it, Donald. Like, they would have to, if this was GOT, they would need to go into production like kind of soon because it's a worldwide thing. It's all these things. It's worldwide, but they're not using, I wouldn't say the volume, but there is stagecraft happening on House of the Dragon that obviously did not exist when Game of Thrones was being made. So maybe they are like, we can wait. Start in December, start in January.
That's good.
So who knows?
It's a good point. Maybe it alters a little bit. Maybe they want to see season 1. I always say Game of Thrones kind of famously wasn't a sure thing for the first couple of years in a way where
they're waiting for a renewal. Yeah,
you'd hear those things of waiting for renewal. Even some quotes came out recently that I really agree with, that the show Game of Thrones did not have an unlimited budget. It still had had a lot of money, but they still had to make some tough choices, and sometimes the creators got lambasted for that. Not enough direwolf, none of this, and all that stuff's at play. So it's an important question, Donald. I'm hoping this time frame, this fall time frame, maybe not August, but fall time frame will be House of the Dragon time.
Well, they do got that HBO Max Discovery Plus Extra, whatever it's going to be called, next year. Yeah, it's supposed to be launching in the next summer. So what better way to do it for season 2? It's a big hit flagship show for that series.
Maybe they can spend some of that write-off cash on making sure that House of the Dragon is accelerated. Batgirl dies, so House of the Dragon gets a guarantee. That's a monkey's paw I didn't want.
It is. All right, Ranger Donald, we appreciate you, all your banners, my friend. Happy to have you around these parts, and have had you around these parts since Daily Thrones began. So thank you so much for calling in today.
Thank you.
And next time we talk to you, the show will be in the world, which is just crazy.
Right. 1 year later.
That's right. All right. We are almost out of here today. Been a lot of fun. Our big, prediction show, but, different kind of predictions. And getting set up for the show. Alden, any final thoughts as the next time everyone will see her and hear us will be after episode 1?
Yeah, I'm just ready to get into the mix. I feel I get very, I don't know if you have this, before I travel, before a comic convention, before Star Wars Celebration, before anything, for premieres, I just get really, really subdued. Like I almost feel like, okay, it's time. Let's do it. I don't know if that's like a theater kid thing where it's like, it's over. Don't talk to me. I'm running lines in my head. Like, let's go. And I just feel like that let's go feeling. But it's weird because it was only a 3 years and some change break. I almost feel like I know I'm not watching Game of Thrones season 9 and that it's not the same story, but I almost feel like, okay, I'm back. Like it's Sunday night. It's Game of Thrones time. Like it just feels right.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I was telling you even off air this week in text messages where I sometimes feel like even in kind of revamping and kind of doubling our efforts around here, Casterly Talk, I feel out of sorts. I feel out of game shape of what's coming down the line. So I'm just excited to sit down, watch it, and then kind of be like, all right, I'm in this world, truly in this world there. But yeah, in terms of being subdued and focused, that is me at a Chili's 2 at an airport before I hit that menu.
Chili's 2.
Yeah. Chili's 2. There you go. Bilbo Reagan says, I'm the opposite. I start stuttering, stammering. I feel bad. Family. Mike Fig, the great Mike Fig, is also feeling subdued. Final question. Derek Bass had this question. I wanted to ask this one. Derek, thank you for the question. Thanks for hanging out with us here today. How far of the story do you think season 1 will go? Hard to judge with the time jumps. The time jumps, they've been talked about. We know when the show will start, but not necessarily that doesn't mean next episode will be that. The trailers go all over the map, so to speak. I think this is a great question because sometimes I'm wonderfully befuddled. Like I'm happy to be befuddled about where this will end up in terms of the times. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it's an interesting opportunity. I'm going to stick predictions wise. I'm going to stick with my Viserys parallels Ned type thing. For season 1, I do think that'll be sort of the ending. But that said, with spending 40 to 50% of your story with these younger performers playing these women as girls, like you afford yourself breathing room where maybe we do move that in season 2 because we've got so much fun, juicy storytelling in the past that we can sort of play that around. I mean, we know we're getting this great council of 101, right?
Yeah.
But what if that's an entire episode? Then like we don't know. Like they built a set for it. We've seen that they're going hard into it. They cast Jaehaerys. Like maybe we do just like really breathe in this show and really stretch it out.
That's a great point too, because even a few months back, not a few weeks back, but a few months back when stuff first started to merge, or even just the cast list and there's younger versions of the characters. I'm not going to say I took it as just a flashback, but I kind of thought, they'll start episode 1 and I have a feeling it could be dueling storylines, so to speak, to the very end of the season, and it might all kind of meet at the crossroads. Will be Viserys. So that's just an outside wild prediction. But Derek, it's a great question. It's a great question. They could be playing with a different kind of presentation.
You know what? And we're not going to find out until that, provided that they keep the same HBO, the static, and then the if they keep that, that to me is like. It's not as like sacred and religious to me as like the Lucasfilm logo, but it is that moment of like, here we go. Like it's go time. Like nothing matters now.
Anytime I hear that, and then I just go bum 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 and it's it's all good. It's all good. Yeah. All right. We are out of here for this time. We will be back shortly. Sunday night into Monday morning, we'll see. This is how we're going to cover episode 1. We might vary it throughout the season based on our own schedules. that'll be where we're at. But we want to get a show out as soon as we can. Sunday night into Monday morning. The episode drops 6 p.m. PT. We'll see about all that. And we hope the app holds up. You can follow us on Twitter at Casterly Talk. If you're listening on the podcast side, thank you. Subscribe, rate, and review. Head over to the YouTube channel. Give us a sub there. Hit that notification bell. If you're just watching on YouTube, head over to the podcast feed. Subscribe. Listen over there. We absolutely want to build up both of these sides, these two sides of our show here. I'm Ken Napzok. You can follow me at Ken Napzok or go to kennapzok.com, including updates on stand-up comedy shows, which a lot happen on Sunday nights, which will make covering House of the Dragon interesting for the next 10 weeks. For Alden, where can they go follow you and all of your wonderful shows?
I will also be at the comedy club watching you having to balance all of these things going on. He's going to do a whole House of the Dragon set. That's what he's going to do. He's going to do new material about this. You can follow me personally at that Alden Diaz, THATALDENDIAZ, Twitter and Instagram. Talking Star Wars over on Octo Radio, a Star Wars podcast, working toward Podathon, which is now less than a month away. We are now we've officially crossed into less than a month. It's on September 17th. I'm interviewing Ryan Johnson. I'm not reviewing him as a human being. I'm interviewing Ryan Johnson, director of The Last Jedi, Knives Out, and Glass Onion, Breaking Bad, other things. It's already in the past for me, but it's in the future for the viewers. So that's happening. That is airing that day. And follow me there for other things that are going on in that world. And then sticking around here as well, House of the Dragon, Rings of Power. If you've been liking Casterly Talk so far, we've been managing to get content out with no shows. Now you're gonna see what we do with 2 shows. So
it's gonna be a fun battle tonight. Oh, it's gonna be fun. All right, we're here. House of the Dragon is just around the corner. Thanks for watching, folks. We'll see you very soon.